So I played Titanfall again. I think I played like how many years ago? 2, 3 years ago when I was in my second year in university. And it's this little game that came, not a little game by the way, it's a game that came out back in 2016 by Respawn, the same dudes that made Apex Legends. It's a good game actually, to be very honest, and I actually enjoyed playing the game from the beginning to the end. And to be very honest, it's kind of one of the best FPS games I've ever played in years. I think it's actually entered my top 3, to be very honest. It's actually an amazing game, top 10 out of 10 game in my honest God opinion. And I know that's hypocritical for me since I said that review scores are bad, but I'm like, it's up there. It's up there. So the gameplay, okay, let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay is actually a very, very engaging gameplay, to be honest. And if I want to discuss the gameplay, the very first thing that comes to mind is the movement. The movement is really good, like really incredible. I think Titanfall, if you play Titanfall, and you will realize that it's a bit similar to Apex, and that's because that the Apex Legends is basically using a skeleton of Titanfall's engine, basically uses Titanfall's engine and basically using Titanfall's game design philosophy. It's just that Titanfall's movement has more depth, to be very honest. I mean, what you could do, in the game, you could, let's see here, you could double jump in the game, you could wall run, you could slide, and I think that's it. But the thing that makes the movement really good is number one, how very seamless the movement is. So meaning that it's actually easy to pick up and understand, and it doesn't interfere with the gameplay loop. And the other thing is how deep the movement is. You have so many opportunities with the movement, and the movement has so much depth that you could play the game in so many ways. And the thing about this thing is that Titanfall's movement is so in depth to the point that even till today, there is still a community of people that are trying to figure out the best ways to utilize Titanfall 2's movement. That's how incredibly ahead of its time Titanfall 2's movement is. Yeah, there are some other games that actually use movements mechanics properly, like Doom Eternal and Ultra Q. But I think Titanfall 2, when it comes to like sheer movement mechanics, is way better. And that movement works really well because of the level design, which actually brings me to the level design, by the way. The level design is actually great. The level design is well designed, I think. And the thing about it is that not only is the level design and the enemy design really great, it has level variety. The level variety is also great. One moment you doing your basic movement, like it's basically level design, nothing that much. There'll be some wall run width, there could be some cover areas, something like that, or maybe you could enter a level where you could time travel. You could travel between 2 different time points, and each time point has its own level. So because of that, the level variety is so great, and it keeps the gameplay fresh a lot. And I actually enjoy it that way. The enemy design is also great, and the enemy variety is also great. You could fight basically from infantry to robots to basically drones to other titans. Which, speaking of which, let me get back to the gunplay, and let's talk about the gunplay and the enemy first, because the gunplay is actually great. Again, if you've played Apex before playing Titanfall, you will notice that it has a lot of weapons that were in Titanfall, and that's because, again, like I said, Apex is based on Titanfall 2, so it has all of the world building and all of the weapons of Titanfall 2, and because of that, so it will feel it's somewhat familiar to you, but also each weapon has its own space in the gameplay loop. There's snipers for some long range shots, like the shotguns, the SMGs, the assault rifles, even the mid-range assault rifles, something like that. That's the basics of a shooter game, but at the same time, each weapon has a different behavior. The gameplay variety is great. The level design is amazing. Movement is great. Weapon variety actually adds to a sandbox, and because of that, this combination of these three things now adds to a really fun sandbox. You could play the game 5 times, and each playthrough you play it in a way different Mana 2. So that's the one I actually enjoyed. It's also like the game also lasts for like I think 15 hours, 10 hours. I think I finished the game like 10 hours or so. So there is that. So it's a very short game and you have a nice time with the game. The Titans are actually like there's a Titan battle. Yes, there is a Titan battle. You have to enter a Titan and fight against other Titans. And the battles are actually great. They're actually engaging and they have their own feel. They're actually pretty much fun. Your Titan has access to like I think 5 to 7 loadouts. Some of them are locked, so they get unlocked periodically as you progress through the game. But for the most part, because again, the Titan battles are actually fun, and also the game also has its own kind of moment, and each loadout plays differently and has different strategies and has different playstyles alongside it. So there is that, and that makes for a very interesting gameplay experience. So yeah, now the story. You play as a rifleman, and to be very honest, so in this world, being a pilot is like the highest honor you could get. But you were a rifleman that was trained to be a pilot. You were not a pilot yet, and something happened in the war and the battle, and you were instantly thrown into this responsibility as a pilot, and now you have to pick up where the previous pilots left off. It's an actually interesting story, and one thing I actually liked about the story the most is the dynamic between Cooper and BT. BT is an amazing character, to be very honest. It's actually my most favorite character in the entire series. In my honest God opinion, a lot of the characters in the game, they are not that great. They are not that interesting, to be honest. The game is pretty much plot focused most of the time, but the highlight of the plot is basically the dynamic between Cooper and BT2, and so that's an amazing thing. I actually like the fact that BT is this clueless robot that is trying to learn from Cooper's humanity, and from that, and see has that level of humanity, even though he's still technically acting based on protocol. But I actually enjoyed it. BT's death actually hurt me, to be very honest, because he was such an engaging character, and this gameplay was actually this story was actually a nice journey of a pilot and his Titan going through shit together in order to complete the mission. It was a very engaging story. And speaking of which, there is the actual protagonist. Writing wise, they are fine for the most part. To be very honest, I didn't find any of them interesting, except for I didn't find any of them interesting, to be honest. The only bosses that writing wise, by doing and speaking strictly writing wise, that I actually found interesting was that second to the last boss, and that was only because that he's actually the only boss that seemed intimidating to me. The rest of the bosses were like jokes to me. And speaking of bosses, this boss fights. Yeah, let's talk about the boss fights for a while. They're not boring. They're not boring. They spice up the gameplay like a lot. They actually do their job as bosses, to be very honest. But my problem with the bosses is that while they never fail to keep you on your toes, at the same time, like I said to my previous statements about the bosses, they are not that intimidating. That's why the only boss I could remember that is in memory. If I remember the name of the boss, I'll actually just paste it in the video. But that boss was actually a very intimidating boss. It was actually the most difficult boss I had to fight, to be very honest. Even in hard difficulty, I played it at. Is the only boss that actually kept me on my toes and actually intimidated me. The rest just seemed like jokes to me, so I didn't feel the bosses that much. But for the most part, this is solid. But for the most part, the bosses are fine. So that's all I can say about the bosses. Now, multiplayer wise, here's the thing about multiplayer. Titanfall has a very small player count right now on Steam, and sadly there is no crossplay. Unfortunately, yeah, there is no crossplay in Titanfall, so you are stuck with those low player numbers. And I didn't play multiplayer a lot, so I don't have a say in the multiplayer side of things. But what I will say is that all I would say is that in my last multiplayer experience, the last I tried a multiplayer match, I waited in the match for like 15 minutes, and they finally entered the match, and I got my house handed to me. So it wasn't even, and I just cooked out. And I just tapped out because I couldn't take it like that. I mean, waiting 15 minutes for a match, that wasn't that nice of an experience. So there is that. Overall, Titanfall 2 is actually an amazing shooter. The gameplay aged well. The campaign, the gameplay, storytelling, everything about it aged well. So as long as you get the game on sale on Steam, I think I got it for like $1 or $2 on Steam. Like, you have an amazing experience. It's still one of the greatest FPS games I've ever played in my life. I think it's like my top 3 FPS games of all time. So I actually highly recommend you play this game. And I think that's it. Yeah, later.